I got speed on camera B.
Rolling time. Rolling.
We good?
Yep.
All right. Well, Mr. Mack, here we are in the Emmett Till courtroom where they tried the Emmett Till killers and didn't get that job done. So we appreciate you joining us today and look forward to our conversation. I'm gonna start with some Emmett Till questions. And the one I want to start with is SNCC. So many SNCC kids identified with that story. They called themselves the Emmett Till generation. You were born, I'm pretty sure, the same year that Emmett Till was born, in 1941. How did you learn about the Emmett Till story? And then I'll ask you a follow-up question about SNCC kids knowing about Emmett Till.
Well, I was born in 1939. But the Emmett Till murder, struck myself and many of my friends hard. We, growing up in Jackson, Mississippi, I had access to Jet magazine, Ebony magazine. In fact, I had a man who I admired sold all of these type magazines in Jackson. And to see the picture of Emmett Till on the cover, I remember several of my friends and I got together one night, tried to figure out how we could do something about it. We thought about going to find the guys who had murdered Emmett Till. Of course, we didn't know what a Delta was really, but the idea was that it was that bloated picture on the magazine just really it did something to us. And the fact that the guy was a kid, I could not figure, what would cause somebody to do this like that, I had a kind of strange life growing up trying to understand racism and segregation, violence and, so that really just kind of inflamed me and my friends. We just didn't know how. We'd all been killed if we could have known how to get to those people. Now that's the way we felt then as 14, 15-year-olds, 13-year-olds. Of course, sometime today you feel one way and get a little time to cool off. It's something you mellows.
So you're talking a little bit about revenge when you were a young man, wanting to avenge the murder of Emmett Till. It seems to me, is it fair to say that when you became a young man, 18, 19, 20 years old, your way of doing revenge was to do the organizing work that you and SNCC did?
Well, I had a couple experiences that growing up that kind of began to build it up in me the desire for some type of revenge. I remember in high school, I went to Lanier High School, and Lanier had a program where they allowed kids after school, if it was okay with their parents, they could have a little job, working in waiting tables or curb service job, like that. So, and I got a job at a little curb service store not far from where I lived. And the day that I first went to work, the owner of the store had a little orientation, and he brought me in and he said, "Charles, now your job is to make sure the front is clean, and take food or drink or whatever out to the cars when we tell you. And he said, but there are 3 things I want you to remember and never forget. One, he said, don't write nothing down. Never write anything down. And 2, never answer the phone. 3, there's a group of white men who come into this store every afternoon, and they sit in the corner over in this corner, and they talk about all kinds of things they're drinking. When they are here, don't hang around in the store. Be scarce. I'll come get you if I need you. Didn't see no problem with any of that because I was there to get $15 at the end of the week. And he said, now, remember that. And he said, please remember that. And I wondered why he was going through this, you know. And so one day the man got sick, and he had this white lady to come and operate the store while he was away. And so one day the white lady called Mrs. Charles. I've got to go into the back to do some inventory in the storage area, in the storeroom. I want you to watch after the front. Come get me if you need me. Okay, she was gone maybe 30, 40 minutes. Phone rings. I'm not supposed to answer the phone. I ignore the phone. Phone rang. And one of those white men hopped up back there and he said, nigga, you hear that phone ringing? And I don't know what to do. I'm standing there. I know what the boss man told me. He didn't want to pay me. And he said, get that phone. Get that phone, nigga. Get that phone. And now I'm standing there, and then I break the first rule. I go get the phone. Answer the phone. People on the other end want to call in an order, then they want several items. Now I'm trying to figure out how am I going to remember these. First thing I do is reach and grab a pencil, jot them down. And once I've done that, I'm going to take the note to the white lady in the back. She's coming out of the back, and we meet about right there where these men are. There's about 8 or 10 of them there, they're drinking. And I'm reaching that note out to her. And one of those men hopped out of the seat. He snatched that note out of my hand, and he said, nigga, you passing a note to a white woman. And I'm wondering what is the matter with him. I mean, after all, what I'm supposed to give. She said, you know, if I need her, come get her. And so he takes that note and he looks at it, and then he passes it around to all of the others. When they get back to him, he says, do y'all realize this nigga wrote this? The phone rang, and the nigga got the phone, and he wrote this. Look, the nigga wrote it. I'm wondering what the heck is the matter with this guy. You know what I mean? I'm standing here. I thought everybody should read and write. And then so the white lady takes the note out of his hand, and he says, she said, Charles, why don't you take that note from him? And he says, a black ass nigga should have never held a pencil in his hand. And so she says, Charles, go to school. And oh man, you should have seen him. So I'm wondering what is the matter with the guy. You know, I don't know what the problem is here at this point. And so the white lady said, you wait outside, Charles. Man, I lived about a half a mile from that store. I believe when my feet hit the ground from stepping out of that store, I was in front of the gate at my grandmother's house. And then so I go in and tell them what happened. And then they give me the lesson about hate, black folks, white people not wanting us to read and write, and not being able to, express ourselves in any way. In other words, to be able to take messages that I had written this, and she tells me now about the Klan and about how it used to be when my grandmother was coming up. And so I started then right away. I'm not thinking much now about wanting to have to associate with these people. I mean, what is the matter with this? And of course later on, I get to the situation that at the train station, and where my grandmother was teaching school in a little town outside of Jackson called Star, Mississippi, and she was teaching in a small church, and my mother and father separated us about 4 or 5 times between the time I was born and 10 years of age. So my grandmother had gone to school over in Booker T. Washington, over in Tuskegee, and she had come to Jackson for a while. And so she took me to school with her. Each day we would take the public transit bus into Jackson we lived out in the rural Jackson at that time. This is back in, this is back in the 40s. The incident at the store was in about 53. So the one day afternoon when we were coming into Jackson from Star, my grandmother had to use the restroom. So we go to the black side of the train station, and the train station seemed to always be full. There was always looked like hundreds of blacks in the train station waiting on the train, and so there was a line at the restroom in the black area. So my grandmother takes me by the hand and we walk across the corridor into the white side of the train station, and so she stands me by the door, just inside the door, says, "You stay here, Charles, you stay right here now, don't go nowhere." And the restroom, I guess, was about as far as that door over there from where I was standing, off to the right. And while I'm standing there, my grandmother's in the restroom. There was no line at the restroom here. And this tall white man walks over and stands in front of me. And looked like he was about 10 feet tall. I'm a little short fella there, around 10 years old, I guess 7, 8, somewhere in there like that. And he says, "Nigger boy, what are you doing peeping in the restroom at white women?" The door is way over there, and here I am here by this door, and he keeps yelling that. He said it several times, and white folks started gathering around that were in the seats in the train, in that section of the train station. They get up and all and here I am, a little fella right in the middle here, and this big burly guy standing over me, hurling these words at me, and so then my grandmother come out of the restroom and she's walking toward us. And as she approaches, she says, "What's the matter, Charles?" And this white man says, "This little nigger boy has been peeping in the restroom at white women." And my grandmother said, "You're lying," and took me by the hand, and we walked out of the train station. So later on, I get a chance to kind of associate that with what might have happened if my grandmother had not been bold and afraid, and he keep running. I would have either wound up in jail, or they may have taken me out, But so I'm beginning to now. I'm building up a lot of hostility toward white people. And I'm to a point where, I really don't want to be around them. And I didn't really have to until we would go to town like on a Saturday, and we'd go on Capitol Street, and I remember my mama, one time we were on Capitol Street, and we were going one way, and the white people were approaching us, and they were just walking all over the street. And my mama took me by the hand and got off the sidewalk out into the street where it was wet out there. It had been raining, and I couldn't figure this. This is bothering me. What the heck? I mean, why am I out here in this? I'm a little fella, kind of, I guess 10, 11 years old. And so these are some things that I'm exposed to early in life that as I learn about them, and they're in the back of my mind, and so when later when I guess, like the Freedom Riders came to town, to Jackson in 1961, challenging racial segregation in the bus stations, train stations, and so forth. And I couldn't see, what is this? Why is this happening? Now, my grandmother have told me about the Klan and about, but this is different. The Klan, I'm thinking about, got the sheets and that kind of, the hoods and everything, and if I stay away from white people, I shouldn't have a problem with them. And so these people are coming in and putting themselves in what I considered back then as harm's way. They're getting put in jail, they're going to jail, they're getting locked up. So I didn't get involved in that. And then after the Freedom Riders are locked up, and then some of them started to get out of jail, and then that's when I get a chance now to meet a guy who had been one of the Freedom Riders, James Bevel, Reverend James Bevel, who is now working for Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He's trying to organize a group of young people from Jackson to buy tickets to New Orleans from Jackson. Freedom Riders got into Jackson, but they never got to New Orleans, which was the original destination. So he wants to try to have a group of young people in Jackson buy tickets to New Orleans. So some of my friends take him up on that, and they get put in jail. And so I still didn't get involved in that because, again, I can't see how getting in jail is going to stop the problems that with white people and the treatment that we were getting as a result of this seemingly hate us to the point that everything that we do is wrong and everything they do is okay. And so anyway, I finally started to hang around with my friends there in Jackson. They're developing a movement around the Freedom Riders having come in. And then the state fair came to Jackson every year. And we had a little carnival-like thing for black folks. And this particular year, some of my friends who had been on the Freedom Ride got jobs helping to set up the Midway, the big fair down in Jackson. And so I followed them down there one day when they were going to work, and I got a chance to see all of these goodies that I lacked, big Ferris wheels and all kinds of things that wasn't at this little carnival that we had. And one of the things, some of my friends who 20, 25 and older who was doing some of the work told me that about the burlesque show. He said they got a burlesque show. I didn't know what burlesque mean at that point. But then after by the time the fair set up, I know. So I decided I want to go to the fair. Now this don't have nothing to do with the Freedom Riders at all. I wanted to go to the fair. So one day I decided two of my other friends and I were supposed to meet to go to the fair, and to the white fair. And they didn't show up. So I went on and tried to buy a ticket, and I got arrested. The white lady told me that was not my fair, that's white folks' fair, and to leave. And I started to walk off, and I thought about it. I mean, I couldn't understand what this got to do with the Klan, or what this got to do with, I'm not trying to peep in the restroom or any of that kind of stuff, All I'm trying to do is go where have some fun at the fair. So I went back, tried to put my money. She said, I told you to get the hell away from here, nigga, and if you don't leave, I'm gonna call the police. So now I'm really, something had boiled up in me, and I didn't leave. Police come, tell me to leave. I'm stubborn now. I don't know. I'm in another world, I guess. So they take me to jail. Stay in jail all night. Next day, the jailer comes, says, there's a nigga down there coming to get you out of jail. I couldn't figure if any of my friends had any money to get me out of jail, so I'm curious. I walked down there and walk into the courtroom. He said, there he is up there, points up in the bleachers. And there's this tall, handsome, young black man walking down to meet me. And he says, I'm Medgar Evers, State Field Secretary for the NAACP. So now I meet Medgar Evers. And I just spent a lot of time going out to Medgar's office every now and then, and the Freedom Riders are now SNCC people, and they come into Jackson and start to set up an office near Medgar's office, and some of my friends and all are meeting there often, and so I started to hang around a little bit, and then they started to have workshops, and Medgar invited me to a workshop around voting and Mississippi laws around voting,